Friends, if you remember the storyline of super hit film Three Idiots, then you know that the central theme of the movie was about the parents pushing their children into educational courses that were not the first choice of the children. And a reason why the movie was so popular was because most Indian children have faced similar parents and similar expectations. Most parents in our country, even today, want their children to become engineers, doctors, or IAS or IPS officers. Many promise gods that they will offer this much money or that much money if their child gets selected for some reputed college. Similarly, many parents pray in temples to make their children get picked by some multinational company during the campus recruitment, something they think would mark an end to the suffering that comes with uncertainty of having to find a job. But the question is, why do parents insist on becoming doctor, engineer, or IAS or IPS? Well, in most cases, they do so because they think these professions are guaranteed to provide a good career, a good income, and even an easy marriage. But they also do so because they often don't know much about great possibilities available in many other less known professions. And in a country with no social security backup, you need a guaranteed job. Being a doctor or engineer or software professional guarantees a better job and a steady income and hence a stable life. In short, these parents are trying to find some stable base for their children and they are trying to avoid ambiguous options, opaque options, and uncertain options. Options that come with less popular professions like wildlife photography, chiropractic, or being a tourist guide. This desire to avoid uncertainty, this desire to look for stable options in the life, is a psychological trait and it is known as ambiguity effect. And this is the topic of our discussion today. The ambiguity effect is a cognitive bias that makes us avoid options that are ambiguous or are new or are totally unknown to us. This cognitive bias kicks in when decision making is affected by a lack of information or ambiguity. We all dislike uncertainty and are therefore more inclined to select an option where the probability of achieving a certain favorable outcome is known to us. The problem with ambiguity effect is that it often makes us stick with the old tools, old methods, and discardable behaviors. It prevents us from trying to do something new. For example, there are many people who are so used to feature phones that till this day they don't want to try out smartphones which provide many extra features. Similarly, there are many who can't upgrade to new modern cars and simply continue to drive their old Fiat car just because they are too used to the hand gears. Similarly, there are many who keep persisting with some old app or some old software simply because they are familiar with it. They do so even though new technology has already brought much more efficient versions in the market. These people often dread the new smartphones or new apps or latest software simply because of the discomfort and uncertainty that comes with trying something new or something about which they lack some information. Similarly, while buying a house, many people choose a fixed rate mortgage where the interest rate is fixed over a variable rate mortgage where the interest rate fluctuates with the government policies. Again, they avoid the ambiguity of the variable rate mechanism and they do so in spite of the fact that during past couple of decades, a variable rate mortgage has statistically been shown to save the money. This happens even in the world of investments. Investors often stick to a particular mutual fund simply because they know it since long, even though they have the proof of other mutual funds providing better returns. But the ambiguity of the process of shifting funds from one mutual fund to another and dealing with the newer systems and software keeps them glued to the older one. The ambiguity effect can be dangerous. It can prevent us from giving two viable options an equal consideration. As a result, our decision making is affected. We may automatically decide against one option simply because we have insufficient knowledge about it and thus we feel it is unknown and risky. Engaging in this cognitive bias limits us as it prevents us from reaping the long-term benefits of riskier decisions. After all, some of the most important rules of growth in our world are provided by phrases like no risk, no reward, and no pain, no gain. An ambiguity effect ensures that we stay in no reward and no gain zones forever. Even big companies fall prey to this. For example, Kodak Corporation blew its chance to lead the digital photography revolution simply because they wanted to avoid the ambiguity of a new technology. In 1975, when a Kodak engineer invented the digital camera in the company's R&D labs, it was something out of this world. It needed no film roll as it recorded the picture on a tape. And yet, Kodak's management rejected the digital camera, fearing it would cannibalize their existing business of camera films and camera rolls. The film business during that time was great, and they felt it was better to stick to what was already in their hands rather than venturing out into the unknown. But what they failed to realize that if they could invent it, then someone else was also going to figure it out sooner or later. And then that person may not keep quiet about it. And incidentally, that's what exactly happened. What Kodak management perceived as an ambiguous option, some other companies saw as obvious, and as a result of which digital cameras and digital photography took off, and today Kodak is nowhere near its former glory. While ambiguity effect appears similar to the concept of risk aversion, but the fact is they are different. The ambiguity effect occurs when we know the probability of a certain outcome for only one of the available options, while risk aversion occurs when we know well about both the probabilities and yet we gravitate towards the option which is less risky or likely to be more profitable. Almost 1,000 years back, when falconry was common method of hunting birds, the falcon, which was the bird in hand, was considered more valuable than the bird sitting in the bush, which the falcon was supposed to hunt. And that's why it gave rise to the saying, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. Czech saying makes a similar claim, a sparrow in the fist is better than a pigeon on the roof. And a similar Aramaic saying is, better is a sparrow held tight in the hand than 1,000 birds flying about up in the air. Bordering on the same sentiment, there is a saying, a known enemy is better than an unknown enemy. In fact, another quote goes even further and claims a known enemy is better than an unknown friend. And similarly, another one says a known devil is better than an unknown angel. And when it comes to sayings, as you know, our country is not behind either. In India, we have a saying, आधी छोड़ सारी को धावे, आधी रहे न सारी पावे. One who dumps what is certain in favor of what is ambiguous often loses even the certain. And then we have another, पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब, खेलोगे कूदोगे बनोगे खराब. And as you can understand, the reason behind it was simply because in ancient India, पढ़ाई लिखाई or education was a sure path to success, whereas खेलना कूदना or sports had no future. But as you know, the times have changed, and today sports persons often earn much more than those who have just gone to a college. And no doubt, ambiguity effect even casts a shadow over our movies. That's why even Mousy did not want to marry Basanti to Viru, even though he was smart, he was handsome, and brave enough to fight Gabbar. But Mousy was more focused on his ambiguous traits: no proper job, no steady income, and no stable home. So friends, this was a brief intro to the topic of ambiguity effect. I hope this will help you deal with it more positively in your life and in your career. In the next episode, we will discuss yet another topic important for our personal and professional growth. So please don't miss it. Until then, keep learning, keep sharpening your skills, and keep improving your